Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Dave Spinks. And some of you know that I've had him on before, but that was on another network and another lifetime ago at this point. Actually, I've had Dave on a few times as it comes down to it. And for those of you who don't know, we've actually met face-to-face. So it's a little bit different. You know, when you've met somebody face-to-face, you kind of know them a little bit better than you do if you just talk to them online. So tonight's going to be a really good show. We're going to hear all about what Dave's been working on. He's got some books out, and he's got TV shows that he's been on and other things that he has taped for that I don't think have been on yet. And so we're going to find out all kinds of good stuff from Dave. So welcome, Dave, back to the Paranormal Pride.
Hey, thanks for having me, Denise. Always a pleasure.
Well, hopefully that'll be the same this time. So, you know, I do have some new listeners on this network, and I don't know how many of them really know you. So can you give them a short synopsis of your past in the paranormal?
Well, you know, I've been investigating the paranormal for over 30 years now due to some experiences I had as a young man, and you know, became interested in it, wanted to know some answers as to what it was I experienced, and it kind of just snowballed over the years. You know, of course, I was in the military and a federal law enforcement officer, and, you know, word of mouth got out through friends of friends. Someone had something going on in their house, or they saw something in the sky, and they would contact me, and I'd go out and check it out. And I kind of kept, you know, case file after case file, and it just snowballed, you know, for many years. And one thing led to another, and you know, I mean, it's just it's been a journey, I tell you. And I just when I retired in 2011, I decided to go public with what I was doing. I never put anything public, you know, about my investigations or anything like that, because I was in law enforcement and stuff, and it's, you know, it was kind of back in those days, you kind of really didn't talk about it much because you would, you know, people would look at you like you're crazy and stuff, you know, and it's become much more widely accepted now. So I decided to go public with what I was doing back when I retired from law enforcement, and it's really taken off. You know, I love sharing what I do with the public, and I love hearing other people's experiences and their sightings and whatnot. And I love going out and investigating, because to me, it's three of man's greatest questions, you know. Are we alone in the universe? Are there unknown creatures walking among us? And what happens to us when we die? I think it's all relevant. I think it's all interconnected in some aspects, and it's fascinating stuff to me.
It is. There's so many things out there that we can learn from being involved in the paranormal as to, even just dealing, I'll tell you, I've learned more about dealing with people from being in the paranormal than I ever have in my entire life doing any other thing. And I have a minor in psychology,
Yeah.
which probably helps me get along with the people a little bit better. But yeah, being in the paranormal, I had to learn how to deal with people on many levels, from the skeptical to the gung ho, in where everything's paranormal to where nothing's paranormal, and with we took you to the Sally house when were in town. And so I have an extensive background with people doing tours. So it ended up being that psychology part of my past really helped me with that. Because both extremes are hard to work with sometimes.
And it crosses many cultural backgrounds, and you're dealing with a lot of different belief systems and everything else. So it's pretty fascinating when you get to deal with that many different aspects of things.
It is, and how to, well, also I also learned a lot of things about those different backgrounds and those different religions from the best, from Joseph Campbell. So for me, putting all this stuff together makes more sense. I did not know I was going to be involved with the paranormal, as a part of my life. It was part of my life since I was 4. So that's going to be a whole 50 years this year. I've been involved in it that long because of things that happened to me. I never thought that I would be talking about it with people out in the open, because, like you said before, it wasn't stuff that you talked about in normal conversation.
Yeah.
And it was shunned and all that other stuff, especially in, parts of Maryland and stuff.
There's kind of like two types of people in this. People have experiences, whether it's growing up as a young kid or whatever, and they want to know more, and they want to understand what happened to them or what they saw. Then there's the people that they don't want nothing to do with it. They saw something, they experienced something that really freaked them out, or they're so skeptical minded that they just chalk it off as, something natural that occurred or whatever, and they don't deal with it, So, it's just two different mindsets, really. And some people want to know more, and they delve more into it, and it becomes part of their life and snowballs, like in my case, in your case, and other people. But other people, they don't even want to talk about it because they fear it. Fear is a powerful motivator. Some people believe if you talk about certain things that you're going to bring it upon yourselves. And that's kind of the mindset it was early on with me when I talked about certain things that I had experienced or seen. And they were like, don't talk about that stuff, son. You're going to bring demons upon yourself. You're talking about demons, or you're talking about this, and I'm just like, I don't buy, I don't buy that. I said, I don't think of course it's possible, but I don't think just because you talk about it's going to bring it upon yourself. So there's just so many different mindsets when it comes to this stuff out there.
Oh yeah. And, you're not too far, there in West Virginia from where, I experienced a lot of things, in Maryland and Virginia and West Virginia myself, because I lived in all those places at one point in time. It's funny. Sometimes I say I live someplace and they go, where didn't you live? Is easier to say sometimes.
Yeah. That's like me too.
Yeah. And one of your stories that you have in your past has to do with the Greenbrier ghost. And for a lot of people, they don't know that story, but that was the very first ghost story my mom ever told me. And because she knew that town, she lived there. And she knew the house and everything. And she kept sending me, after she found out that, I was actually serious about this paranormal stuff, she started sending me pictures from her childhood of that house. And
it's a very famous ghost story, and especially in West Virginia, it's probably the most well-known ghost story in West Virginia. So, It's the only time. If you guys don't know about it, Google it, look it up, read my book. There's a big section on my book that talks about the Greenbrier ghost and how it all came about. And basically, it's the only time in recorded history that a person was convicted based off of ghost testimony in a court of law. So it's a pretty fascinating story, and I've had the pleasure, as far as I know, I'm the only professional paranormal investigator that's ever been allowed to investigate the murder house. And I have all these weird synchronicities with there in Moundsville and everything. So I write a lot about it, and it's in the Real West Virginia Hauntings book, Volume 1. Volume 2 is almost done with that series, and then there'll be a lot more on that in Volume 2. But, it's pretty fascinating stuff, And that guy, the murderer, the husband, was a real piece of work. They found out later that he had married several women and done this to them too, for their money. So, it's a pretty fascinating story. And it's so historical and such a big deal in West Virginia that they actually have a historical sign. You know how you go to the county by county, there's these historical signs in different places in the state, where Civil War battles took place and everything else. But they actually have a Greenbrier ghost historical sign down there in Greenbrier County. So it's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, like I said, my mom, she pulled pictures out from the family photo album and did not realize that she had a picture of me in front of that house when I was a kid. I mean, when I say a kid, I was probably 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I had no clue that, anything about it, because she didn't tell us why we were there in the town. It was like 3 towns from where we were staying with my grandparents at the time. And, but she took us over there, and we're like, okay, is one of the few pictures we have of her and my dad and us together. So strange thing, but it's an interesting story. And I do have Volume 1 of the West Virginia ghost stories.
Real West Virginia Hauntings, yeah.
Yeah, that one there. I have that. You sent it to me, and I got that, and now we all have lots and lots of time to read.
Yeah. Now's a good time as any to read.
Or write. Hopefully you're using this time to write.
Oh, yeah, I've got 5 more books in the works right now I'm working on. 5? Yep.
And they're on different topics, right?
Yes. Well, Volume 2 of the Real West Virginia Haunting series. I got 2, a monster book coming out and another Bigfoot book coming out. And another book, I don't want to give all my secrets away, but 2 other books on different topics. Well,
you got to stay busy.
Well, it's just stuff I've had around for years, that I've been working on. I'll be pumping out books from now until I can't pump out books anymore. So,
yeah.
So it's a lot of years of investigations and research and everything else and places I've investigated. So, the TV stuff's cool and all, but the TV shows won't be here forever. They'll go away eventually. And then what's left? You'll have books. So I figure why not put everything I've done into books, because it lasts forever. It's in the Library of Congress, So you got to leave, I feel like I got to leave kind of like my little spot on the paranormal world by doing the books, all my investigations, what I experienced and what other people have experienced in those books. So I think it's a way to leave what you've done, out in the paranormal world.
Your paranormal legacy.
Yep.
So, we all have something that we want to do in the paranormal. There's some people that their only goal is to be on TV. Their only goal is to write a book and be be recognized for something, and whether it's paranormal or not. But in the paranormal world, it seems like there's 3 goals, and you've met them. You've got your own you own a paranormal location, which is Willow's Weep in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have multiple books on the paranormal and cryptozoology. And then you've been on multiple TV shows. And did you get to meet William Shatner?
Yeah, briefly.
Well, I like the show on The Unexplained. Every other show is really good. Well, sometimes it's like,
yeah.
huh?
It all depends what you're into. There's different topics on that show, so it all depends what floats your boat.
Well, like this last one we saw, it's the one that had the crystal skulls and all that. It was interesting, but not as interesting as the one before it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's what it is. I mean, it's
kind
of like it. It's like a modern day In Search of, kind of, but a little bit different.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not saying I don't like it, because I do. I find it interesting in the way that the information is given is in pieces to where you remember enough of it to where you can say, oh, this one was, like I said, this one was about crystal skulls. It wasn't just about the crystal skulls, but that's the part that I remember the most was that story, in there. And it's
open-minded. It's an open-minded show. It leaves you to make your own choice, what you think about it. It's not saying one way or another, which I like, because, really, when you break it all down, right now, there's no way to prove anything we're talking about scientifically. It's just, hey, I was at this location and I got this killer recording of this. What the hell is it? So, you got to try to figure out, you got to make up your own mind in this stuff. Either you believe there's something otherworldly or supernatural or paranormal going on, or you don't. I mean, it's like politics and religion. You can't change people's mind until they have their own experience. They have to make up their own minds. And, it's one of those things, the paranormal, and that's what we deal with. So, I don't try to change people's minds. I just say, look, this is what I got when I was there, and you make up your own mind. It blew me away, but, here it is.
Right. And that's the only way you can do it.
Right.
Because no one's ever going to believe they're going to believe that you may have had that experience, but until they experience it themselves, they're not going to believe you 100%.
Right. And you're wasting your time by trying to, like I said, you're never going to change their minds until they, you may get lucky and someone will say, wow, that's really cool. That really changed the way I think about things. You'll get a few people like that sometimes, but others are just, they're so set in their ways. They're closed-minded and they only see things one way. They see things black and white, not the gray area, so to speak. And, and you're really just wasting your time if you're trying to sit there and change their minds. Just let them make up their own mind. And, it is what it is.
And that's true. But, because I know I watch these shows on TV, the paranormal shows, and I just kind of like, okay, I don't believe them. I think this is over exaggerated, and I don't care who it is. I think a lot of the stuff on TV is over exaggerated. But if it comes from somebody that I know, that I've met, that I trust, it's a whole different ballgame. And yes, I've met Zach Bagans. I don't believe everything that comes out of his mouth. But again, it's because I don't trust him. I like him. I think he's a likable person. I just don't have any desire to believe what's coming out of his mouth. And I can't believe that our good friend Justin Spurrier hasn't told him that's dust. I'm still waiting for that. It's dust. It's a bug.
Sometimes people, certain people, no names mentioned, but they're gonna say and do whatever benefits them, and unfortunately there is some sellouts out there, and they'll do whatever it takes to get their little piece of the pie or, whatever it is. That's the only reason I don't have my own show. I've been offered my own show several times now, but if they're not going to let me do it the right way and the real way and present things in a realistic way, I don't want any part of it. So, it is what it is. Like I said, if the right production company and everything comes along and I get to do it, and present it the way I do live streams is what you see is what you get, then I'll do it. But until then, I just can't do it. Now I'll do the one-offs and stuff. And, I just filmed with a great show, a very well-known show that'll be out May 20th. I really can't say too much about it, but it really opened my eyes that these guys are the real deal. There's no BS. I was there the entire time they filmed, for the entire week, and I have to say my eyes were open, and they are definitely legit, and it's very well-known people, and it's not Ghost Adventures. I'll just say that.
But, I know who it is. But at this point, we got to take a break. So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming. To the skeptic, there will never be enough. Hello everyone. Join Kevin and Jennifer Malik, the host of Paraversal Universe, every Friday here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET-FM and The Rift. Log on or tune in as they check out the mysteries found within the 8 categories of the unknown and unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, cryptids and monsters, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, metaphysics, and forbidden archaeology. Listen as Kevin and Jennifer interview the top minds in their respective fields as they share theories and information regarding these unsolved mysteries. For future show and archive information, one can find Paraversal Universe on Facebook, Twitter, and MeWe under various Paraversal Universe headings. So, for excellent talk radio about the unknown and unexplained, check out Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, LTD, and produced by WBHM-DB.com.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and tonight I'm talking to Dave Spinks. And Dave, we have a question for you in the chat, and this one's from Gary. He asks, what do you feel is the best evidence that you've come across, and where?
That I've come across or that I've gotten myself?
That you've gotten yourself.
Well, I've had several things that really blew me away, and one of them was when I was at the place up in Indiana, well, I'm skipping my mind right now, but it's an old brothel ran by the Chicago mob. Oh, daggone it. Anyway, I had my head cracked open by something unseen, and it was really, really creepy, man. I mean, I never had anything like that happen to me that violent before. And the very next day, my buddy David Weatherly I was investigating with, he got scratched violently. And with all the things that happened, and this entity or whatever it was saying its name was Ian, it told us what it was going to do. And then it did it. And it was very, very unnerving when you realize that something has that much juice where they can actually put physical marks on your body. And they were interacting intelligently with us at the same time. And they told him, on the ghost box that it was going to slice him. And he was scratched really bad, 3 giant scratches down his left side, almost ready to bleed. And he got very ill. And I had a big knot knocked on my head. Of course, I didn't feel like something knocked me on my head. I just felt like this wave of energy went through me, and I got really dizzy. And then I kept feeling this tickling sensation on my head for about 30 minutes, and I was feeling dizzy and really nauseous. And we had like 10 people because we had an event there earlier in the night, and me and him were upstairs by ourselves. They were watching the live feed of this downstairs, and it got so nasty and threatening on the ghost box that we just shut it down. And he said, I didn't look right. I looked sick. So we went downstairs to get out of there, and I reached up because I had that tickling sensation, and I had a big knot on my head, and I was bleeding. And I never fell and hit my head, bumped my head on anything. And there was numerous witnesses that were watching this go down, as it happened. And people were like, what in the crap? And they, I was like, no way. And I had and the thing he asked the ghost box when all this went down, he said, what'd you do to Dave? And it said, I hit him. Ha, ha, ha. There's the Rhodes Hotel.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Was it the Rhodes Hotel? Because there's only a couple places I could think of in Indiana.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but that's the only one I could think of.
And then he said, that thing said, I hit him, and it laughed. And then he said, what'd you hit him with? And he said, a shovel. And being that I'm ex-law enforcement, that was ran by the mob, it makes sense that they didn't want any law enforcement people in there, so he whacked me on the head with a shovel. It's very, very bizarre and intelligent in nature, too, so it's really unnerving. That was one thing. And then when I was at Trans-Allegheny several years ago, I captured a full-blown shadow figure. There was only me and 2 other guys in the whole building. We were all standing behind my camera. We were all together. It was pitch black in there, and we captured a full-bodied shadow figure walk from left to right in the hallway there. There was no one else in the entire building, and this building is humongous.
Yes, it is.
Second largest stone-cut building in the world.
Yeah, we drove by there and stopped.
Yeah, and it's super haunted. It's one of the most haunted locations I've ever been to, and I've been there many, many, many times, and it never disappoints. I've always captured Class A EVPs out of there, a full-blown shadow figure, and numerous things have happened there when I've been there. So it's just one of those places, And then at the Willows Weep House recently, by pure happenstance, we captured a full-blown shadow figure in the house on a GoPro camera during the middle of the day with unexplained noises in the house and everything. There was no one in the house. We were all out back packing our gear, ready to leave. And the guy that was with me filming for this documentary I'm working on, he said, oh crap, I left the GoPro in there. He goes and grabs it. This is right before we were leaving. And we had just left it running, right? And a month later, he calls me and said, oh my God, he's freaking out now. This is a regular camera guy who has no anything in the paranormal. This guy just films stuff. That's what his job is. That's what he does. He doesn't care about the paranormal. And it's on my YouTube channel. It'll blow you away. If you just go on Real Supernatural YouTube channel and you scroll down, you'll see shadow figure captured, shadow person captured, Willows Weep. It's like the 4th or 5th video down on the homepage. Mm-hmm. It'll blow you away. There's unexplained shuffling and footsteps. Then there's a huge shadow that goes across the ceiling. And then in the back corner room, you'll see a full-blown shadow figure walk in the back room right across the camera. And I know for a fact there was no one outside that could have done this. And if it would have been a person outside, the legs and stuff would have been cut off because the windows are about 4 to 4 feet off the ground outside, and there wouldn't have been any legs in it. And you can see you can see the entire shadow figure. You can see through it. And it's in the room, in the house. There's no doubt about it, 100%. I've had it put on, where they do it in negative form to look at it and make sure it's, never been doctored or anything, or that it's really something in the house, and it definitely is. It's phenomenal. I mean, it was captured by pure happenstance, not during any paranormal investigation or anything.
Oh, well, that's usually when those kinds of things happen, when you're not really investigating. Because I always notice stuff happens when we're setting up or cleaning up.
Yep, broad daylight too. Probably like maybe 5, 6 in the evening. Crazy.
So, and Carl asks, what piece of equipment did you were talking about different things. So I'm going to have to just go with, what is your best piece of equipment for getting evidence?
Well, I mean, there is not one particular one. I mean, I like them all, but my favorite evidence is when, of course, we all want the holy grail when you capture something on camera that's legit, but that's few and far between. I've been doing this many years, and I've only captured, I'd say, 3 to 4 things that are legit on camera, shadow figure, ghost wise. I got to go with EVPs, man. I mean, I love them because, when you get a Class A EVP and it's interacting intelligent with you, and for instance, many, many times I've been in a place all by myself. I know there's no one else there for a fact because I've cleared the whole building, wherever the location may be, and there's no one else around, and I ask a question and I get an intelligent response. It still blows me away because there's just no freaking way to explain it. There's no way to explain it. And I've captured it on digital recorders, on tape recorders, magnetic tape. I mean, I've captured many different types of recorders. So, and a lot of times you even capture really good EVPs on your camera's audio,
Right.
So, when you're filming, so, it's pretty phenomenal stuff.
Yeah. And people don't realize nowadays you can use your cell phone to catch audio, but if you're going to do that, sit your phone down.
Yeah.
Because
don't carry it in
it'll right, because your hand will make it sound like there's something, sound like something garbled, but it's just your finger running across the microphone. So don't be surprised. Because I see that a lot on TV, that they're walking around holding their recorders. They're not sitting down, they're not sitting them down on the table and walking away or whatever. And you can see that they're holding it.
Yeah. I mean, that's something you have to realize as an investigator. You've got to rule out, the less human interaction you have with the devices, the better, because, you can manipulate it and not even realize you're doing it. One prime example, I was at Willow's Weep one time and I had a flashlight. The way I had my camera set up is I had a DVR system in the house and I was out in the back building with the control center, right? And the way I had it set up was I was recording a 32-inch TV screen with another camera of the DVR ones because it was a real pain in the butt, the format that footage was being streamed in to my control center. So it was easier for me to just set up a camera and record the TV screen of what I was recording with the other 4 cameras. Well, I had 2 friends over and they were going to go out and grab us something to eat, and I had a flashlight in my hand. And if you're on the YouTube, it's always about a 20 to a 30-second delay. So I had a flashlight on in my hand, didn't realize it, and I flashed it across the TV screen, and that camera picked it up. Well, it looked like on the playback, the 30-second delay, that there was this unreal blue light anomaly in the middle of the house, when in reality, it was my flashlight reflecting off the TV screen, and that camera was capturing it, feeding it to the YouTube channel. So I really freaked out for a second. I was like, holy crap, look at that. That's amazing. And a friend of mine said, hey, I noticed something. Did you have a flashlight in your hand? And I went back and I always keep a camera recording me in the control center as well, because you never know if something might happen in there too. So I played that back, and sure enough, I had a flashlight on in my hand while I was talking to him, and I was moving it, and it was hitting the screen, making the most beautiful light anomaly you could ever imagine, but it was all me doing it. So you have to, I had to debunk myself. So that's what happened. So but it looked, the way it captured it, it looked just as if it was on inside the house. So there's, that was there's no way you could have debunked that if you wouldn't have known that I had a flashlight in my hand and I was, it was doing that. So it was pretty crazy the way it all went down.
Well, see, I'm not surprised at all because you talk with your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
like I said, I can just see it now. You're talking and don't even realize it, and there you go.
That light went crazy all around, and looking like there's a friggin', just an angel appearing inside the middle of the Willow's Weep house. That's what it looked like. I mean, it was crazy. So, so I had to get on there and tell all the people that were watching, hey, it was my screw up. It's debunked. It's not anything paranormal. So, because I got really excited really quick because that's how phenomenal it looked on there.
Yeah, but there's a lot to be said about honesty.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, you got to. If your reputation is everything. If you are caught faking stuff or, not being the real deal, you might as well just hang it up because people will never trust anything that you get ever. And that's not what you want. That's not what you want. It's not worth your reputation to say you captured a spirit on camera when it's not. I mean, that's not what it's all about, and you touched on something earlier in the show where you said there's a lot of people out there that's the only reason they do this stuff because they want to be on TV, and that's the totally wrong way to. You don't belong in this field if that's what you want. You know why? Because you're not interested in the real evidence, and you're not interested in pushing the field forward. You're doing this for your own self purposes, and that's not what the paranormal is all about.
Right. Just reminds me of, when they first came out with the show Charmed years and years ago. Needless to say, my granddaughter's named after Piper. So my daughters love the show. And it always said in there that you couldn't use the witchcraft to to benefit yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, not calling this witchcraft, although a lot of people might, but you don't use the paranormal to benefit you. It should benefit many.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. We try to share what we capture, share what we think is real and legit, and try to push the field a little further. And it's, I often talk about TV's like a double-edged sword. It's entertainment, but it's also been great for the paranormal in many ways because it's become pop culture now, and it's more widely accepted. And people's experiences and stories are coming out in droves. Well, when I was 13, this happened to me, and they would have never talked about it before because people would label them or, just like we experienced early on in our careers and doing this stuff that, you just didn't talk about that stuff. So it's helped the paranormal in a lot of ways, but it's also bad because all these little groups and these people think, well, I'm going to get on TV. I'm going to start acting like I'm going to investigate the paranormal. And there's people running around going into people's homes telling them they got demons when they have no clue what they're talking about. And people are losing their homes. They're moving out. It's also very bad for the field too. So,
there's a lot of people out there that don't even know what a demon really is.
No. And that's the bad thing with it. But, like I said, you got to keep it real and you got to present the real stuff. And if you're doing it and here's another thing, the odds of you getting on a TV show are pretty much slim to none. They're slim to none. So, if you think that's going to be you and that's the only reason you're doing it, you might as well hang it up because let me tell you something, there's 1,000 groups out there and there's 2,000 that are trying to get on TV. So, that's not what it's all about. But, some people get lucky and they get on TV because for whatever reason, you're in the right place at the right time or they think they look good or whatever, on camera. So they get a TV show. And if you watch the show 9 times out of 10, it's pure crap. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. And the reason I'm not on TV more often is because I have resting witch face. I'm getting better about it. I'm getting better about it being on video as much as I am these days. I'm getting better about paying attention to that, to where I don't look like I'm going to bite your head off if you ask me a question. But
And
but usually
best advice I
it's
can
because I'm
give people
listening.
yeah, and the best advice I can tell people, if you want to know people who are real in this field and who are legit, look at the people that have a body of work out there, whether it be books, vlogs, blogs, case files, whatever, before they were ever on TV. Now, if you see these people that nobody knew who they were and then they just got on TV, that's more than likely an actor. Okay. There's a few exceptions out there, but most people that have been doing this, that have been on TV and other shows that are legit, they have a body of work. They were doing this way before they were ever on a TV show. So, that's a good way to discern who's real and who's not real, when it comes to the TV land. And I'm not saying everybody on TV is like that, but for the most part, yeah, that's pretty much how you can discern who's real and who's not.
Well, that's kind of how we decide which TV shows we're going to watch. Hey, Ron, I know somebody that's on this one. Hey, Ron, I know somebody who's on this one. And he's like, who don't you know?
Yeah, and I saw one show that really just cracked me up. Some woman was on there saying if furniture moves, it's a demon or something. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. If they're strong enough to move a piece of furniture, that's definitely a demon. And now I was just like, where do they pull these people out of the woodwork from, And I was just like, that is ridiculous. A lot of times, doing this stuff for many years, these negative entities or whatever, they like to masquerade as little girls or little children, and they gain your trust, and that's how they get a foothold. And next thing you know, you've got an attachment, and there's just so many different ways, and there's no right or wrong way to do this stuff, but this stuff can be dangerous, folks. I had an attachment one time from a case, and it's no fun, let me tell you. And I've known many other people, and there's been murder-suicides in this field, more than one, from investigators that have taken something home, and they can't leave it alone, and they're nonstop doing different stuff, and next thing you know, somebody's dead. And that's real. These things can really attach to you and manipulate your lives in many different ways, from financially, spiritually, mentally. I mean, they can do some real damage to you. So it's not just child's play. And you can get an attachment just walking down the road or going to a bar. You go to these bars, these entities lay around, they wait for your, to jump on you in your weakest moments, like, i.e. if you get, drunk, you're wide open then. Your defenses are down, whammo. Then they can jump in and enjoy the humanly things that they missed when they were alive, and they're negative in nature. There's a lot of different ways that things can happen to you out there. And I've had one, and it was no fun, let me tell you. No fun at all.
Well, you're at a good stopping point because we're coming up on our next break. Everybody, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. If you have any questions, please put them into either one of the chats, and I will make sure I get those questions asked and answered. And come back in a few minutes, and we'll be waiting for you. I promise.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. We were having a really good discussion during the break. Sorry you guys couldn't be a part of it. But we do have a question from Linda Carino, and you may know her name from, well, she's been on my show before, but she's also on was it Paranormal Survivor? She's one of their, she hates it. She hates that they call her the paranormal expert, but she has a question for you.
Yeah.
She asks, what attachment has he had that was the most difficult to get rid of?
I just had the one, and like my life turned upside down like overnight, and like I went financially, almost went financially ruined, went through a really bad divorce, and I started having all these health problems. And it was after a case that I'd lived in I went and lived in this notorious house in PA for a month with a team of people, and it was really negative. A lot of bad things had happened there. Then I went back 3 more times for 2 weeks at a time. And right after that investigation, I had all that stuff happen, and I was having these dreams nightly where it was a black cloud around me in my dream, and these arms were coming out of the darkness trying to grab me. And every night, and it was nightly, and every night they got closer and closer till finally one night, one of them got a hold of my shoulder, and I pulled away, and it like ripped my shirt. And the most bizarre part was when I woke up, I had a little tear in my shirt and I had a scratch on my arm. And that's when I said, okay. And these voices were saying, kill yourself, and all this weird, bizarre stuff. And I don't ever think like that. I would never do that, and I'm like, F you, I'm not going to kill myself, and blah, blah, blah. And then when that happened, I went and got a hold of some of my friends. I had a Catholic priest cleanse me. I had a Baptist minister cleanse me and a shaman. And overnight, I kid you not, everything turned around almost within a week or 2 after I had that done. And that's how I knew. I didn't know I had an attachment, but I had a strong suspicion. And I went and had that done, and it all turned around overnight. And that's when I knew, yeah, it was an attachment, man. And when my friend, the shaman, did his thing to me, when he did his thing, this loud pop happened. It sounded like a light bulb blowing up. And that's when he said it was gone. And it was really, really bizarre. And let me tell you, I went through about a year of just pure, my life was a mess for a year after that investigation. And I went on and had that done. Now, there's another occasion that I had something trying to attach me from the Moundsville Pen, who was an inmate, and I took care of that right away. And there was another loud pop when that happened, and they said it was gone then too. So, these things will try to jump on you and try to manipulate you and cause havoc in your life. And I find that a lot of the cases that I've done residential-wise, some of these people are normal people, normal marriages and families, and then out of nowhere, their life gets turned upside down. They start drinking or using drugs and all this weird stuff that they never would have done, they start doing. And it's something acting through them, causing them to do these type of things. And many of these cases I've done, like people would just up and move out, leave all their belongings and everything else. And that's just, that's not normal behavior. There's something paranormal going on there. And you get them in there and you get them cleansed, and it seems to turn around overnight in a lot of cases. But some of these things take years to get rid of fully. And sometimes you can never get rid of them fully.
That's true. And I know of a case that is very similar to that it's, really never gone away.
Yeah.
And Linda asks a follow-up question to the attachment. Are you able to say where you got that attachment from in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it was at a place in Wilkes Barre called blah, blah, blah. The Wells house.
Okay. So I was hoping it wasn't that you didn't go to where the Smurl family haunting was.
Well, there's a whole connection there, but I don't want to get into it.
Well, I'm good friends with Karen. But I mean, when I say good friends, I mean actually really good friends. So I know a lot about that haunting, even though every time I try to have her on my show, something happens. She gets sick. Her dad fell down the icy stairs this was before he died, of course. But it was when he fell down the stairs, he was never the same. And so I left her alone.
But he died? When did he die?
It was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, it couldn't have been that long ago.
No. And of course, knowing now that haunting is going to be the next of the series of
Conjuring.
Conjuring stories. And so it'll be interesting considering that they never really let their story out except for when it really truly happened. And
when I went to his house and talked to him, and during all that stuff that we were doing there, and there's a whole other long story, but he told me he couldn't say too much because he was under contract, so that might have been what that was all about. And this was not that long ago. This is about, let me think here, 6-7 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, so, and I know they had spent time in that house I was at. That's all I can say about it. But.
Yeah, like I said, Wilkes-Barre is a very small town.
Yeah, and it's also very, very bad town.
Yes.
In many different ways. There's tons of witchcraft going on there, and there's all kinds of stuff going on there. Murders. I mean, I did some research, and that town actually had a higher murder rate than New York City.
Per capita, you mean?
Yeah, per capita.
Yeah, that town was weird even when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing a lot of things, between living in Paterson, New Jersey and Baltimore, Maryland, heard a lot of things, because you do. And this is the 70s.
The land is cursed. The land's cursed because the white settlers came in there, and there's a huge couple of Native American battles. That was all sacred Native American land where they grew their medicinal herbs and everything, because the water there they had springs everywhere before the white settlers came in, and there were several huge battles there. And then over time, the settlers took over, and they actually built their houses and stuff right on top of Native American burial grounds. That whole area is Native American burial grounds, and there's houses built right on top of it. I uncovered pictures of Native American graves that were desecrated, and all the stuff was robbed out of them. I met with a Native American elder there and all kinds of stuff. But,
it's weird.
I got a book about it that I never released, but it's all kind of stuff there.
There is, like I said, I mean, I remember in the 70s, it was on the news all the time, that area.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And in between living in Paterson, New Jersey and Baltimore, Maryland, yes, we had black and white TV, and we were getting this news from over in that area. So, like I said, I just remember it a lot. Luckily, it was not a location that they took us on field trips to. There was nothing to go see, because a lot of these times, when we talk about paranormal, a lot of my experiences were back in the 70s. Talking about field trips, going to Gettysburg or going here, going there, going to the White House, going to the Capitol building, things like that. But I haven't been to those places since, probably, the last time would have been 81 that I would have been in any of those locations, because I've been out here. So, I can tell you about all that stuff because I remember a lot of it being on the news or being there or seeing it. But Wilkes-Barre, like I said, that wasn't a place that they would have taken us to on a field trip for school.
Well, a lot of people don't know, but like the house that I stayed in and lived in for that time there, Ed and Lorraine Warren had been there. John Zaffis came down and investigated with us, and a lot of other stuff happened. And a movie guy ended up buying the house from my friend who bought the house, and then he locked us all out. We couldn't say anything or write about it, which he can't stop us from writing that, but he's a dude with a lot of money. So, basically it all came down to threats and taking us to court if we wrote about our personal experiences in there. So I'm probably going to go ahead and release that book at some point under a different name or whatever, because I want people to know what all happened there when we were there. And it does have connections to the Smurls and everything else. The local college actually was in that house, and they actually had a paranormal program. I think it was in the 80s, and it was all connected to that house too. So there's a lot of bizarre stuff that went down there.
Well, Ryan Buell, his team, they were out of State College, Pennsylvania. I know, strange name of a town, but yes. And so I know they were involved in a lot of cases in that area at one time before they got famous. But that was a long time ago, and he's not worth any of my time. I can't even believe I said his name live on the air. I have no respect for him, period.
No.
But that goes back to who I trust and who I believe and all this other stuff. But Tom McNicholas has a question. He says, do you feel your attitude, whether it's positive or negative, that you have during an investigation reflects on how the spirits react to you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially, there's a difference between types of spirits, in my personal opinion. You have entities, which never had a human soul. They're not human. Then you have human souls are stuck here for whatever reason. And, we don't know why they're here. We can, formulate ideas as to why they're here. Some people say, well, they have unfinished business, or they just pop in from time to time, or they're stuck here and don't know they're dead, or whatever the case. But when you're dealing with a human spirit versus an entity, it's two totally different things, in my point of view. And a human spirit, you can more apt to interact with, intelligently and stuff. And depending on the location you're at, like for instance, I'll give you an example. Whenever I go into prisons or jails that are haunted, they don't like me. Why? Because I'm former law enforcement. Makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. If they start talking to me reacting to me or interacting with me in a negative manner, guess what I do? I give it right back to them, because I worked in that environment for real, and I know how to interact with those type of people. So I will, I demand respect. If they give me respect, I give them respect back. But if they don't, I'm going to give it back the same way. Make sense?
Oh, so, yeah.
Now, if I go into an orphanage where there was abused children involved or something like that, of course I'm not going to go in all hard and, be talking in a negative manner and stuff like that. I'm going to try to communicate with them just like I would a living human child. You got to know where you're at, what went on there and everything else, because that's how you're going to approach the interaction. Another example would be if I'm on a battlefield. I'm ex-military. So maybe I might try some military command type of things to elicit a reaction. And I'm not saying it's wrong to maybe, I hate use the word provoke, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to document paranormal evidence, correct? So maybe I might try something with a little more authoritative voice or something like that to try to elicit a response if you're not getting any communication. Sometimes you have to think outside the box to try to elicit an intelligent response to get an EVP or something or make something happen, but that doesn't mean you got to use couth. You know what I mean? You don't want to go in there just provoking and cussing and carrying on and acting a fool. That's not how you do it. You remain professional, and you can try a little bit of different authoritative stuff trying to get a response. There's nothing wrong with that. Just know where you're at and what happened there and use that when you communicate.
Yeah, like I said, I can see that. I don't see it as provoking if it's something that they would have heard normally.
Right.
Like if you go into a jail or a prison and you do something in the manner that would be seen as a CO or law enforcement, that would be normal in that environment. Not that you have to be a PETA in that fact, but you just act yourself, and more than likely you're going to elicit a response. And military-wise, if you just revert back to your military, you're going to get something in that sort of case as well. And we are at our top of the hour break, so this gives everybody a chance to go get a drink, go to the restroom, come back, whatever you're going to do, and we'll be here when you get back. So you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back after the news break.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. The Trump administration is asking Congress to change the legal deadline for the 2020 census results used to redistribute congressional seats and electoral college votes among the states, as well as the deadline to provide data to states for redistricting. That's according to a statement by Census Bureau Director Stephen Dillingham and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who oversee the Bureau. The administration is seeking to move the deadline for the apportionment count from the end of this year to April 30th of 2021, and for redistricting data from next March to next July. The Census Bureau says it's also planning to further postpone census field operations until June 1st and to extend counting through the end of October. Less than a week after dropping out of the presidential race, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders joined Joe Biden in a live stream video to endorse the presumptive Democratic nominee. Here's NPR's Ashma Khalid.
Sanders had long said he would support whoever won the Democratic nomination, but this makes it official.
We've got to make Trump a one-term president, and we need you in the White House. So I will do all that I can to see that happens, Joe.
Biden told the Vermont senator that he'll need him, not just to win the campaign, but to govern. Sanders reminded Biden that it's no secret they differ on some issues, but their campaigns had been talking for a number of weeks, and now they're setting up joint task forces to deal with policy priorities where they can find common ground, such as the economy, education, and climate change. Asma Khalid, NPR News.
Storms that caused major damage in parts of the southeast set their sights on the east coast today, moving north and east. The severe weather that hit the deep south over the weekend with heavy rains, tornadoes, and mudslides claimed at least 11 lives in Mississippi, 9 in South Carolina, and a half a dozen more in Georgia. Other deaths were reported in Arkansas and elsewhere in the Carolinas. A Mississippi man says his family's alive because of a concrete room that survived a twister that destroyed the rest of the home. The man says the so-called safe room in the house was one of the reasons they bought it just a few weeks ago. Stocks were mostly lower on Wall Street today. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow fell nearly 329 points.
Investors are bracing for some gloomy earnings reports as corporations begin to tally the financial hit they've taken from the coronavirus pandemic. Ford, for example, expects to post a $600 million pre-tax loss for the first quarter of the year. Both the Dow and the broader S&P 500 index fell more than 1%, but the tech-heavy NASDAQ rose nearly 0.5%, buoyed by the strong performance of Amazon. The online retailer continues to gain market share, with many of its brick-and-mortar competitors closed. Amazon says it plans to hire another 75,000 people to keep up with demand. That's on top of the 100,000 the company's added to payrolls over the last 4 weeks. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Checking those numbers, the NASDAQ was up 38 points today. You're listening to NPR. In Wisconsin, clerks have finally begun to count votes 6 days after last week's presidential primary. The oddity of the late returns is an outcome of a court battle in which voters initially were given an extended time to file absentee ballots, only to have that overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. The election is not a factor in deciding the Democratic nominee for the White House since Bernie Sanders dropped out soon after the election. However, an important state Supreme Court seat is up for grabs. The Associated Press is projecting Joe Biden was the winner on the Democratic side there. Mexico's government is enlisting the help of a superhero to help protect more people from the coronavirus. Rodrigo Cervantes with member station KJZZ reports on a new online campaign that's getting a lot of attention.
Hola, soy Susana Distancia.
Her name is Susana Distancia, a play on words in Spanish meaning your healthy distance. She's the cartoon of a young, slim woman wearing yellow tights and a pink blouse. She's protected by a transparent sphere as wide as her outstretched arms. Susana's battle cry is,
Quédate en casa.
Stay home. She tells citizens to follow the instructions from health authorities and ignore rumors. And she wants everyone to build their own invisible shield through social distancing. Susana has been mocked by many. They say the government should be more serious about fighting the pandemic. But that's not stopping the campaign, and Susana keeps fighting online. For NPR News, I'm Rodrigo Cervantes in Mexico City.
Crude oil futures prices managed to log a modest gain amid signs the world's biggest producers may be close to a deal to cut output. Oil down 35 cents a barrel today to end the session at $22.41 a barrel in the New York Mercantile Exchange. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Walden University. At Walden, they see greatness in you, and they have a doctoral degree program that can help you reach your full potential. Turn your passion into power and ignite your career. Learn more about our online doctoral programs at waldenu.edu/doc.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Dave Spinks, and we're having a really good time. We have a follow-up question for you from Linda Carino again. She says, every investigator enjoys certain aspects of investigation, EVP sessions, reviewing footage, etc. What do you most enjoy, or do you enjoy it all?
Well, I really enjoy all aspects of it because it's the whole process for me. You know, it all starts either with a lot of times as an email or a phone call. You know, someone needs help. They've had this go on. They want me to come out. And I enjoy meeting people and helping people. I mean, to me, when it comes to residential cases, I'm talking about, and that's why I really got into investigating the haunting side of things to try to help people. You know, because first and foremost, we have to try to debunk it. That way, we can ease those people's minds. You know, if we can't debunk it, then we have to go through a whole nother process and reach out and try to get those folks help to clear their homes or business, whatever the case may be. And then it's a really good feeling when you go into a place and you can actually validate some of the things these people are experiencing, and it makes them feel better about themselves knowing that they're not crazy now, you know, and there's something really tangible going on here, and you were able to validate it. And then you can bring in some clergy of whatever denomination those folks want and get them help. You know, that's what it's all about when it comes to that for me. And then the other part is the actual evidence. When you capture something legit, it's just fascinating. It blows me away to this day when I captured Class A EVPs. There's no doubt about that. Excuse me. There's no doubt about it that it's real, and you can't explain how you captured that voice of someone answering your question. And when it's actually factual information they're passing on to you that you can go back up and research and find out, yeah, Joe Blow died on this date, and he told me he died on this date, and I've got it right here. Holy cow. It's fascinating stuff. And, and when you capture things on camera that you can't debunk and everything else, it's the unknown, it's some of man's greatest unanswered questions still yet. And you're capturing a little piece of that puzzle. And it's just phenomenal to me. That's why I do what I do.
Which part of the paranormal do you enjoy the most, as far as the cryptids, UFO, ghosts?
That's a tough question because I love it all. I really do. I mean,
I figured you did.
Yeah, it's just to me, a lot of this stuff is intertwined in some aspects. And, there's a lot of cases like I talk about when it comes to cryptids. For instance, there's a lot of cases in more recent times that people are seeing strange lights in the sky, and then there's a rash of Bigfoot sightings, or vice versa, in the same area. So what are these Bigfoots? Are they some sort of ET or some sort of interdimensional creature? Or, what are these things? And there's multiple phenomena going on around some of these things that it's just fascinating stuff. And it's things we're looking into. There's some people that I know that are friends that are going and backtracking into the places where there was a whole rash of Bigfoot sightings, and they're also noticing that, at the same time, people were seeing strange lights in the sky. So they're kind of backtracking on some of these old cases and saying, this is a phenomenon that's been going on for quite some time. What are we dealing with here? So, and here's the thing. They're finding new species on the planet almost daily. I mean, just 2 years ago, there was a completely new species of orangutan discovered in Sumatra, right there under everybody's noses, for who knows how long. A totally separate species of orangutans there. The giant squid was thought to be a myth. You know, you see all the old books of the sailors talking about the Kraken and all this stuff. Well, it turns out it was real. These sailors were seeing these things, and everyone thought it was just mythology and stories. But it turns out they found some real giant squid that were humongous.
I thought it was the rum.
Yeah. So, you know, they were hitting the rum pretty hard or something, you know, but, it just gives more validation to some of these stories that people have had these experiences and these sightings. The mountain gorilla was only discovered a little over 50 years ago, you know, and these things are right under our noses. And there's a lot of wilderness, and the ocean's only been like, 90-something percent unexplored. It's hard to tell what lies under the ocean floor. You know, there's all this talk of the megalodon sharks that are still roaming around, and these giant squids and everything else. So, you know, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you think about it, but I tell you, I had the theory that Bigfoot was, you know, an alien back in the 70s, and people kept telling me I was nuts.
Well,
and
nobody can say for sure because we just don't know yet at this point.
But I mean, but in the 70s, you know, you figure when the 70s ended, I was 15. Okay, let's be honest. I was just being a goof off at the time. But, you know, as we got more and more involved in this, I stuck by my, you know, hey, why aren't we finding anything, you know, as far as this goes? You know, there's no, you know, the tracks just suddenly stop. Is that they're being beamed up like Scotty? You know, I mean, it was all kinds of stuff that I would say that was, you know, to people would go, because, you know, it was more acceptable to talk about Bigfoot in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s than it was to talk about ghosts. Same as aliens. It was more acceptable. As long as you didn't say you got abducted, you weren't being swept away to the hospital. But you know, that's, you know, we went camping a lot. So, you know, it was always, there was something always in the woods, you know, always. You know, Colonial Beach, Virginia, or, you know, somewhere along the Shenandoah River, you'd find, you know, something weird, and of course you'd have to say something about Bigfoot. It was just common knowledge back then. You always scared the kids with Bigfoot. And but not only that, you also have knowledge of Mothman as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a native West Virginia. Spent a lot of time in Point Pleasant, you know, and investigated up there many times, and had some pretty compelling things happen on some investigations up there. Of course, I never saw the you know, quotation mark Mothman, but I've interviewed and talked to many people that are locals there that have, and these are people that are, you know, legitimate people that aren't crazies. We're talking about law enforcement officers, people of the town. Good people that would stand to lose more by saying they saw something like that than gain anything. So that's a big thing with me. You know, when I'm interviewing 5 state troopers in West Virginia, and they all tell me they were on a, you know, there was a major flood here a couple years ago, 3 years ago now. They called it the 1,000-year flood. Well, these 5 state troopers they had their cruisers parked, and they had this section of road blocked off because of the high water. And they were just hanging around in the middle of the night, you know, and they all saw a Bigfoot running through the woods. They all drew their guns, and then that thing let out a big howl, and they all said no way, and they jumped back in their cruisers and left. Now you're talking about some of the most heavily armed law enforcement people in the entire state. Only people that are more heavily armed than them are the National Guard, you know. So for 5 state troopers to jump in and leave, that's telling me something. They saw something that scared the bejesus out of them, and they rolled. So that, it goes a long way with me, because those are people that stand to lose more than gain something when it comes to reporting their sightings. And that you have to take those type of reports into account, because they really mean something. Just like with the UFO phenomena, you've got astronauts, all these high-ranking military people. Now you've got leaders of countries coming out saying they had an experience with a UFO, and they know that UFOs are real and they exist. and they're not of this planet. So what does that tell you? These are decorated people, some of the best of the best. You know, you got to take that into consideration. If you don't, you're doing yourself a disservice out, you know, because they're not just going to say one day and come out and say, oh, I saw a UFO, you know, they're for no reason. I mean, they really, truly know they saw something not of this world. So, you know, it's just there.
Yeah.
It's out there, you know.
I have a cousin who's an astronaut, and I've told this to other people, but he said, and he's down in Houston. Yes, at Houston, down there and he said, yeah, we know what they are. There's nothing out there that's unidentified at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're waiting to go down to Johnson to check out all the stuff that he's got to show us. But again, you know, he said you don't want to know what we see at the International Space Station when they're watching the stuff, the things that happen there that's not related to the people.
If you've seen any of the old shuttle missions when they had the live feeds going, they would be filming UFOs all over the entire atmosphere, and then all of a sudden they would say, uh-oh, and they'd move the camera away from that. You know, I mean, it's just, and then there's so many captured communications from ham operators, from shuttle astronauts saying, oh, we got a bogey, you know, oh, there's another UFO, you know, and they're like, oh, crap, and they go to the secure channel because they were on the open channels, you know. So the first astronauts we had go to the moon and orbit the Earth saw UFOs. So, you know, and filmed them. So, you know,
right.
There's no way. And you're talking about a time before we had the technology, way before. There's more technology in a cell phone that was in the Apollo missions. You know, they had giant warehouses to do what our, you know, to store the computing power that is in our cell phone now. So, you know, there's no way there was high tech on this planet that could be flying around in space. You know, I mean, it's just no way.
When I started computer programming, this was back in high school, and we would spend weeks filling out cards. Okay, take a bus to the other side of Baltimore. So we were in Baltimore County. This was in Baltimore. It was probably 30 miles to this room that had a computer, and it was this, you know, in the room was this big computer that we would put our cards through. We would do so the computer was, like I said, is about as big as that room. And this wasn't really that long ago when you think about it. This was probably 78 to 81. I don't know when they got smaller computers. Okay. I don't know. I quit high school. So I don't know. But it was really strange when you think about how big computers were just as early as, you know, 78, 79 to now. They can carry it around in your hand.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I was in high school, they had just come out with the Apple PCs, like my sophomore or junior year, and you had to still type in code to work those.
Oh yeah, so, I mean it's really odd. I mean,
87. You know, 30 years ago, and now look at what we have.
When I first started at Sprint, there were still people that had something similar to a Commodore 64.
Yeah, yeah,
and actually, we hired this guy back into our group, and we found his old computer from when he started at US Telecom. Before, that was what it was called before it was Sprint, and we put it on his desk and told him that we saved his computer for him. And we were the lab, so we were the people that were creating the Jetson stuff while everybody else was still using the Flintstone stuff. But that was, you know, when Sprint existed, because Sprint now is T-Mobile. But that shouldn't be news to anybody. That all happened already. So
I mean, you had the days of the floppy disk, you know, and all that stuff. So
I still have those. I still have them in the house, and I don't know how to I don't know how to destroy them yet at this point. So I guess I'll just magnetize them and get rid of them. But I still have some floppies.
Military applications, you know, after the whole Roswell incident in 47. Is almost seemingly overnight, our technology jumped 100 years. We went from prop jobs to frickin' the SR-71 that was flying on the edge of space in a matter of a few years. So, where did that tech come from?
Just during World War II. I mean, think back to World War II, how fast we changed during that in our technology.
That was 47.
It was.
So,
and
the Germans were known, they had a whole occult society called the Vril, and they were said to have communicated with ETs, and they were deep into this stuff, and they were way more advanced in technology than we were at the time. I mean, we're lucky we're not living in little Germany right now, and that's honest to God's truth. They were so far advanced in technology compared to what the rest of the world was. Where did they get that technology from? So, and it was said the Nazis were known to communicate with ETs, according to their, many, many people. So, and they had the whole Vril Society, and they searched the planet for artifacts and everything else.
Okay.
So,
well, we're at another break. Everybody, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Dave Spinks, and we are talking all things paranormal, and we're having a really good time. We do have a question here from Robert Hanna for you, so we can start out with that one. He goes, what do you think about the Dogman?
Oh, I mean, interesting topic. Oh, werewolves, wolfmen, all that good stuff. A friend of mine, Ken Gerhardt, is a known expert on the Dogman. He's traveled the world researching and studying it. And right here in West Virginia, we have a lot of stories of Dogman type creatures I've interviewed many people and witnesses that say they have seen one, giant black dogs with red eyes. Some look like a normal dog, but they're much bigger than normal. And also a dog man type creature on 2 legs. So I think there's a lot of the sightings and stuff could be misidentification. Could have been a bear. Could have been a possible Bigfoot or vice versa. So, but there is sightings all over the country of these dogmen type creatures, and it's pretty fascinating stuff too. Because it goes back to the old lore of werewolves, and a person gets bit or scratched by one of these creatures, and next thing you know, they're turning when the full moon comes. And it, you got to go, the whole Hollywood version of it and stuff. It's still spooky, scary stuff, and it's fascinating too. And there, if you can trace all that back to Europe, the same with vampires and everything else.
Well, you're going to have a hard time convincing me of vampires. I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a known fact that people that were thought to be vampires, they still find coffins today with people that have stakes driven through their heart to keep them from getting up, keep them from getting up and walking around the undead and all that. But people really believed in that, and of course it all started with Vlad, the emperor who basically turned people into living shish kebabs, his enemies and stuff like that, and was said to drink their blood, and dine on their blood in front of them while they were suffering on these, with these poles, they were impaled on. So, it's spooky stuff, really supposedly happened, but the whole Hollywood version of the vampire, who knows if that's real or not. There's stories. We even have vampire stories here in West Virginia, and I'll be I'll be putting some of that stuff, some of the local stories and legends in my books coming up too, that people can read about. But because it's all fascinating stuff, and let's face it, it's spooky stuff.
Yeah, we have Countess Bathaway. She used to drink blood of virgins, and she, this was, she killed 650 servant girls to try to keep herself young.
People really did that stuff too. So that's, that's what's scary about it, is there are people that really did that kind of stuff.
And this wasn't that long ago. This was 17th century.
And there's people today that call themselves vampires who drink each other's blood and drink blood. There's a real vampire cult out there.
The thing is did that really exist? I know it existed. Okay. I know it existed before Twilight, but Twilight may have emphasized it more.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's just
when
weird.
I was in the military, when I was stationed out in Arizona, I lived in an apartment complex, and the neighbors next to me, they were vampires. They dressed like the Hollywood version of vampires. They went to the dentist and had real vampire teeth made and all that kind of stuff, and they slept all day in coffins in their house. I saw them moving the coffins in. It was creepy as all get out.
I bet. I bet so you decided you wanted to move pretty quick.
No, I stayed there, but there's people actually out there living that life, So
I hate to say it, but if people were up all night, which they are in my house, I think I'd move if I didn't own my house. Yeah. So there's something, I don't know. It was funny. My grandson was watching Peppa Pig, and on there, one of the characters was dressed up like a vampire, and they were talking about what everybody was, and one of the Susie Sheep says, "Mommy, what's a vampire?" And she goes, "It's somebody who stays up all night." And the cartoon character kind of looks out at everybody with a strange face. I was like, "Oh crap!" So even in little preschool cartoons, there's some adult content. I've seen way too much Peppa Pig lately, but I just happened to see that one time, and all I could do was laugh. So, because it's like, how do you explain a vampire to a 3-year-old?
Right.
it's somebody who stays up all night. That's about all you can say.
Tell them to watch the cartoon Vampirina. That's what a vampire is.
Oh yeah, my granddaughter loves that. So, and yeah, there are a high concentration in New Orleans as well. I saw quite a few when we were there as well. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. I don't get it. But of course, it's not up to me to get. So, but it is what it is. Dogmen, back to that. Are dogmen different or the same as werewolves? Because I know some people say they're different and some people say they're the same. What is your theory on that?
Well, there's different types too. Like from what I've researched and when I've talked to people, you have the hellhounds, supposedly the guardians of hell, that the devil has guarding the gates of hell. And then they are said to be sent out to drag you to hell. In some cases, if you try to hide out from the devil. I mean, there's all this legend and folklore with all of them. Then you have the werewolf, where people are said to be bitten, and then when the full moon comes, they turn into a wolf. A creature that walks on two legs, but is more dog than man. So, and kills people and livestock and whatever else it does when it goes on its rampages. So, and like I said, we have a lot of stories of these black dogs here in West Virginia that are said to be supernatural in nature. People have said they have hit them in cars and they saw the thing rolling behind the car when they hit it, but then when they got out, the thing just disappeared right in front of their face. And then there was a famous story of a hunter back in the 1700s. This town was being traumatized and terrorized by this giant black dog, and the livestock was being eaten. So they hired this famous hunter to go out and find this thing. He found it. He said he shot it. The bullet went right through it, had no effect, and he reloaded again and shot again, no effect. And then he said, "I'm out of here," and he rolled out. And this is a famous story. There's actually a placard on the border of Maryland and West Virginia about this story. So it's a known thing, and it's these beasts and these creatures are reported all around the world, and they have deep-seated roots in places in Europe and over there and in different locations. So is there something to it? Maybe, maybe not. Is it legend and lore? Maybe, maybe not. So there's a lot of unknowns out there that we just don't know everything about,
Yeah, that's true. How about the other one, Goat Man? Because I grew up in Maryland. There's a big legend about a goat man there now. When I was growing up, there was not. There was zero goat man legends before, because somebody brought this to me and I go, I live there. I don't remember any legend about that. Because, if there was, when I was a teenager, don't you think we would have went out there to try to check it out? Same as Blair Witch Project, not real. But,
right.
Yes, there's a Burkittsville, Maryland, but it's not haunted.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the goat man legends come out of Maryland, and then there's some in Texas and Oklahoma, here in West Virginia. They're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people claim to see a man-sized goat type cryptid that resembles a goat on the head and has walks like a man on 2 feet and has hooves for feet. And there's various descriptions. They're all similar in nature, and these people, and some of them are traumatized and some of you have been attacked by this thing. And there's all these legends and lore, and they seem to differ a little bit in each location in each state, but all similar in nature. So, another one is like the Jersey Devil, I mean, that's a creepy story, and there's a lot of them out there like that. There's Lizard Man
Jersey
story.
Devil. Yeah. Jersey Devil, though, I heard about that in the 60s.
Yeah. Oh, that story goes way back.
Right. So, I mean, if somebody comes to me with that one, it's like, well, I was hearing stories about that as I was growing up. I can believe that there's something strange there that we can't explain. But, when I had people coming to me in, 2011 telling me about Goatman in Maryland, I'm going, oh, must be new because it wasn't there before,
Well, it dates back. I mean, it dates back a ways, but the ones I really pay attention to are the ones that seem to be backed by Native American stories and are depicted on cave art and stuff like that, because those go back thousands of years. Most Native American tribes, they only have an oral history. They don't have a written history. They pass it down generation to generation orally from the elders to the youngsters. So when you see tribes that are thousands of years old and they've passed the same thing down generation after generation, and there's cave art that dates back thousands of years depicting these creatures, you have to take a hard look at that, because there was no modern day cryptid stuff going on, no UFO, but they sit there and they talk about the star people, who brought them here and who say that, we are their people and all this different stuff. And there's depictions of this stuff on cave art that's been verified to be thousands of years old through testing and whatnot. So, there's something to it. You have to say that's no coincidence, and that's not made up, folklore or legend. That's stuff that these people, they only drew what they saw. Right. That's how they told their stories. So it's just like some of the most famous paintings out there, in religious painting, that show, say, the Virgin Mary or Christ, and there's UFOs in the sky behind, and these things were drawn in the, painted in the 1500s, some of them, and even earlier. And they're out there. They clearly show a dish-shaped object with a beam coming out of it. Now, people only drew what they saw, or painted or whatever the case. I mean, that is how they were getting the point across as to what they are depicting there. There was no other, was no photography, nothing like that. So you have to sit there and say, whoa. And this stuff covers multi-cultures from different places around the world at different time frames around the world.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no, there was no connections between some of these people and these tribes from all different locations in the world. So you got to say, wait a minute, that's just, there's no way that is fabricated. There's no way.
Yep, there's a lot of that. I've seen some of these drawings out in the Painted Desert and things like that. It's amazing. Of course, you can't get close to them. You have to look at them through binoculars, basically, to see them, because they're down so far. And of course, a lot of that is off limits. You can only see stuff from certain places. You're not allowed to get down in there.
Well, yeah,
but it's neat to see, though.
Yeah, it's still being used by the Native Americans there. That's still their sacred ground, so, and it needs to be preserved in that aspect. So.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, the Park Service doesn't let you down there, so.
Yeah, and the Aborigines, they have the same similar type of drawings. You're talking continents apart from different things and everything else. So it's crazy stuff.
We have another question from Robert. He wants to know your thoughts on black-eyed children.
Well, one of my best friends, David Weatherly, he's the man on black-eyed children. So he wrote the first widely known book on the black-eyed children, and I was privy to some of his stuff that he talked about, and a very spooky situation there, the black-eyed children. They seem to be very ominous, very evil feeling whenever people encounter these things, these beings. They seem to be almost demonic in nature, and if you let them in, they always want to be let in. It almost goes back to almost like the vampire thing. You have to invite them in, and if you do, bad things are going to happen. And everyone that seems to, when in his book, when he talks about it, the people he interviewed and the people that had encounters, they all told a similar story, that they knew that these things were bad, and if they did let them in, they were in for big trouble, and they seemed to all no way, and they would either haul butt away in the car or lock the door, and all these different bizarre things. And this is a worldwide phenomenon. It's just not in the United States. He uncovered many encounters with these beings from around the world. And I highly recommend his book. It's very scary. It's a scary book. It's downright creepy. Just type up David Weatherly, Black-Eyed Kids, Black-Eyed Children, and it's creepy. BEK.
Yeah.
But his book is excellent he's an excellent writer, an excellent book on that stuff.
Are Black-Eyed Children kind of like the Children of the Corn?
I don't know. Some of the things that he talked about is some people feel like they may be alien or interdimensional, or they could be demonic. Their eyes are solid black. They're real pasty complexion. They don't act quite right. They're kind of all just like their mannerisms are different, and they don't act like normal people would act. And the way they talk is very weird and bizarre too.
Okay, just like the Children of the Corn. I'm kidding. David Weatherly is going to be at the Van Meter Festival on September 26th of this year. So anybody who's wanting to meet him, get his book, whatever, he's going to be at the Van Meter Festival in Iowa on September 26th. So, and it's $3 in advance, $5 at the door. And it's a nice little festival where we had fun. It was free last year, but because they're apparently getting a few more guests this year, and David Weatherly's got to come from quite a distance, I guess. Where's David live?
Nevada.
Oh, yeah. He's got to come from quite a distance. We know that drive. And so it'll be interesting to hear him speak at the festival. So,
I recommend. Excellent speaker, excellent writer. Definitely, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, it'll be good to hear him speak, and I know he's really, really interesting. So we got, and I'm going to be having Chad Lewis on in August sometime. So, but yeah, it's an interesting little festival. If you ever get a chance to go out there, they get good attendance, and we get good food. It's Iowa. They have a Hy-Vee food truck, and it's great. I know that sounds weird.
Hopefully if the coronavirus is gone by then, we can all get back to normal operations.
Well, you know what? I got some things to say about that, but I'm not going to say it right now.
I'm right there with you.
I'm frustrated, and for me, nothing's changed. I'm still working my job. I'm still doing everything I've always done, and I've done it at home for 13 years. So it's not like anything's changed for me. So, but you know what? I think we're getting close to our break. My clock got covered up, so I can't really see it, but we're getting close. So I'm not going to ask you any more questions yet. So everybody, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. This is our last break. So if you have any questions, you need to put them in either of the chats so that I can ask Dave before he goes any questions you guys have. But we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown. all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and I hope that everybody's enjoying Dave Spinks, because I know I am. I can just sit back and just let him go for it. I think it'll be great. So let's see if we have any questions here. Creepy, fascinating stuff. The black-eyed children talk like they're almost robotic. So, yep, we got no questions at this point. So we've talked about the cryptozoology. When it comes to the cryptozoology, which creatures are most favorite to write about?
Well, Bigfoot, of course, because that's when I had that was my first experience in the paranormal. That's what started me, you know. Mm-hmm. I had an encounter with my grandfather, and that's what set me on my course. But I mean, all of it's fascinating because, you know, it's just that the whole unknown of it. What else lurks around us? You know, it's fear-based, but it's also fascinating at the same time because we don't know, man. There could be something in your backyard watching you right now and you wouldn't know it. You know, what is that? You know, what else is out there? You know, I want to find a piece of that puzzle myself, you know. I want to find out what Bigfoots actually are. Are they a living, breathing creature? I think they are, but are they from here? Or are they from somewhere else? Don't know, you know. So it's all part of the whole process of investigating and trying to find little pieces or answers to the puzzle, you know. Whether we will or whether I do or not, it doesn't matter. It's the journey, and it's fascinating stuff to me.
And let's see, before we go much further, I'm going to go ahead and ask, where can people find Dave Spinks besides on TV?
Well, you can go to if you go to my website, www.davespinks.paranormalinvestigator.com. Has all kinds of pages. You can see the shows I've been on. You know, if you can't watch them there, but you can see the shows I've been on. Then you can go to Amazon and different places to see the replays. They show them on the Travel Channel, History Channel, Discovery. You know, all the different shows I've been on over the last 3 years. I've been on quite a few actually, and got more coming up. But you can see there's a book page and it says Dave Spinks author, where you can order my books off Amazon, or you can order books straight from me if you want a signed copy. If you can't make it to an event I'm speaking at or whatever the case. And just all kinds of stuff. There's links to my YouTube channels on there, my books, everything, and upcoming events. Of course, right now there's no events because of this coronavirus, but whenever that stuff gets back on track, you'll be able to see if I'm near your hometown and you want to come out and meet me. I'd love that. Come out and hear your stories, your experiences, or come and buy one of my books. That's where you can find me, what I'm doing and everything I have done.
Yeah, you know, and what not to do would be the best part is not to call you up when you're in town saying, hey, guess what? We're here. Because you usually don't answer your phone that quickly. Because we were in, we were somewhere. We were in West Virginia, and we were in your town, actually. And I sent a message or called you, and you called me back 2 days later.
Yeah.
I was like, too late now.
Well,
you were
normally,
busy doing stuff at that point.
Yeah. I've been. I mean, this last year, I've really taken a little bit of a slowdown on investigations because I'm trying to get out a bunch of information that I've already done in my books and stuff, and I've been filming a lot of TV stuff. So it's really put a damper on my investigations because normally in most years I'd be doing, 30, 40 investigations a year, sometimes 2 a week, or more. So that, I had to slow down some on that and just catch up and do some things that I've been wanting to do for many years as far as we're getting some books out there and stuff like that, because I got so many case files and stuff that I want to get some of those out in the public, and stuff like that. So it's something you just got to do, slow down a little bit, and then I'll get back on it here pretty soon and start getting back to what I love to do, which is investigate and share that with folks that want to watch and want to be a part of it,
And what's coming up on TV for you that you can share?
I filmed a couple. I'm becoming a regular on UnXplaine now. I'm on season 2, which has already started airing. I think they're doing 20 episodes on season 2, and I filmed at least. I filmed for 1, possibly 2 on that. So I'll be on this season of UnXplained, and I just was on Expedition X with Josh Gage's new show with the 2 new rookies he has on there. That was a fun show to do, and that was on Discovery Channel. And then another show I just filmed with some very well-known folks that have been around for a long time, Ghost Nation, will be coming out May 20th. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, they're a little bit more down to earth than some of the other teams out there.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, my eyes were very open with them, and it's the first time I got to be really around them and see what they do and how they do it, and I was very pleasantly surprised, I must say. So, the real deal, they do it the real way. So,
I like the way that they're doing the new show. They're actually doing more research than they used to in the old show. In the old show, they used to take their word for it and just go with it. And now they're going out there and they're researching it and finding out more, like along the lines of the Dead Files, doing a little bit of research, which I find interesting because, I've always been a fact person.
They're having real people on, regular other investigators along with them, which is really a good thing. So, it's not just all TV personalities type stuff. It's, and they, Jason and them guys were really doing this stuff before they ever did a TV show, which I liked. So, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm particular about the shows that I like, and I'm very, very boisterous about the ones that I don't like. I won't point out too many things, but I'll just say I don't like this show, and sometimes I'll go into reasons why I don't like it, and other times I won't. But there are investigators out there that were faking evidence long before they got a TV show.
Yes,
and they still got a TV show.
Guys, and there's people doing that are faking it to get a TV show. Trying to say that they've got all this phenomenal evidence when it's a bunch of BS. But it is what it is. To each his own. And like I said, if you're not real, you're not anything in this field. So in my eyes and many other people's eyes. So keep it real, folks. And if you're doing it just to be on TV, you're in it for the wrong reasons. You don't belong here.
Well,
we don't really want you here if that's why you're in it for. So you're not gonna help the field. You're hurting the field, and you're not helping advance the field in any way. So you're just out for your own purposes.
So I have a question for you. Every time you're on TV, do you get weird Facebook messages from strange people you don't know?
Of course, yeah.
Any nudes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Believe me, I know. I was only on TV once, but every time I can always tell when it re-airs because it happens every time. Every time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm blocking people. I probably have more people blocked than I do have friends.
I was getting those before I was ever on TV for my YouTube stuff. And then now it's got 100 times worse. So,
Yep.
But it's all good. It's all good. I mean, if you put yourself out in the public eye, you got to expect you're going to have to deal with some loonies and some crazies sometimes, and that's all it is. I mean, you're putting yourself out there in that public eye, so you're pretty much open game to haters and crazies and everything else, man.
Oh yeah. And it's just there. Many of them made me laugh really, really good, and others were like, "Oh, you're sick." That's all that it was. So, but if it hadn't been for that, honestly, if it hadn't been for the fact that I was on Ghost Adventures, I never would have met you, because I wouldn't have had a Facebook profile that people would have gone out to find, and I know that you found me through someone else, but it's all because it leads back to that day that I said I signed that NDA to be on Ghost Adventures, is what all it leads back to. And, it is what it is. I got a lot of hate for it. I got a lot of, great job. You told the truth, and which I did. The thing is they didn't take all my truth, but you got it. You got it later on. So, it's interesting.
Just remember BBD, block, ban, and delete. That's my motto.
Oh yeah.
When you're dealing with the crazies and the haters, that's block, ban, and delete.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. So, have you been updating your YouTube page, Real Supernatural?
I haven't done too much on there. I haven't put much stuff on there over like I said, because I've been so busy with doing the books and events and then filming TV stuff. I mean, I really haven't had too much time to investigate. That's why right now I'm hoping the weather breaks, because I'm going to do some live and some filming out here in the woods of West Virginia. I'm still doing my social distancing, but I'll be out in the woods, so I'm not around no people then. So right. I'll be doing. I got some stuff upcoming as soon as this weather gets a little better. I'm going to be going out doing some West Virginia Bigfooting and sharing it with folks. Do some live stuff in the woods and mountains of West Virginia.
When are you going back out to Willow's Weep?
Probably not till this stuff blows over. Until we get a little bit more back to reality as far as everyday functioning goes. So
are you allowing people to investigate Willow's Weep during all this?
Yeah, 5 or less people.
Well, it isn't that big of a building from what I recall.
Right.
So
yeah, if people if they go with their little friends and their family and they want to investigate, sure, why not?
So, Wendy asks, "Are you from Walton's Mountain?" Like,
no.
Laugh.
But I will tell you this: I live on top of a mountain surrounded by millions of acres of woods and maybe 20 houses in the general area. So there's where I live is very mountainous, rugged, and rural. Not a lot of people in the way I like it.
So you can investigate Bigfoot from your deck.
My backyard, if I want. Yeah, I can go right down into the, 30 yards from the back of my house is millions of acres of woods. So
yeah, when you sent me the book, I looked your address up on Google Maps, and yeah, you are very rural.
Oh yeah.
So
be telling people where my house is.
Huh?
Don't be telling people where my house is. I don't need people driving up.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
And there's only one way in and one way out where I live, so everybody would see you if you came up here anyway.
Oh no, I would never do that. You know me better than that. But once you guys send me stuff, I always put your address in my stuff in case I need to ever send you something. So, but in case you get sick or something. And Robert Hanna asked the question, have you ever seen a Bigfoot? I know that you have, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, Robert. That's what like I said earlier in the show, that's what started me in this. If you want to find out about it, you can watch Terror in the Woods or These Woods Are Haunted. Look it up on Google it. You can find it and watch it. And if you want to read the whole story, know the whole story, because TV changed some stuff and moved stuff around, read my book, West Virginia Bigfoot. It's all in there, along with many other people's accounts from Bigfoot in West Virginia. State troopers, doctors, lawyers, teachers. Fascinating stuff, man.
Yep. And this was just on not that long ago. It re-aired not that long ago. I think they had a whole day's worth full of These Woods Are Haunted or Terror in the Woods. So yeah, it was an interesting story because I had you on. I think I had you on right after that aired. So that it seems like it was just yesterday.
It's weird because so the Travel Channel Discovery who owns Travel Channel bought out Destination America. So the story was first on a show called Terror in the Woods on Destination America. Then they bought them out, and so with whatever kind of copyright stuff, they had to change the name of the show to These Woods Are Haunted, and then they started airing it on Travel Channel as that. So it's the same show. You can find it under both names. You can actually rent most of these TV shows. You can rent the episodes. Some of them on Amazon, some on YouTube for like $1.99. So if you're bored and you want to spend $2, go on there and check them out, man. Some of them on Amazon Prime are free. You can just watch them. So, I've been on a bunch of different shows sharing different accounts. I had like Paranormal 911, These Woods Are Haunted, In Search of Monsters, Unexplained. God, there's several other ones too. I mean, I've been on a bunch lately. So, Expedition X and multiple episodes of Unexplained I've been on, like 4 or 5 now. So
yeah, the woman from Expedition X is going to be at the Kansas City Paranormal Conference this year.
Yeah, they're really cool. Her and the other guy, and Phil. Yeah, they're really cool, nice people. And
I like Phil.
If you didn't watch that episode, it was pretty cool because I brought a little bit something different to the table on that one. But giving people another perspective of what Mothman may have or could have been. I wasn't saying that's what I thought for sure. I'm just giving people another perspective of what could have else been going on there.
Yeah, and that's coming. Has that already come out?
Yeah, that was on last month.
Okay,
it's the very first episode. It was the special episode, special edition,
Wow, I guess I missed that. We must not have taped that because we tape Expedition Unknown all the time.
It's Expedition X. Okay.
Yeah, right. But they put it on the end of Expedition Unknown.
Yeah. That was the special, the special night. But if you just go to Expedition X, Episode 1, you'll see it. You'll find it like that too.
You know what? I think Ron just reminded me. We did see it. I just see you, and it's like, hey, somebody I know. And like I said, if I know you, it's like, oh, well, I just saw you and don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, we got to end the
stuff.
show. Yep. It was funny. But you know what, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to the Paranormal Pride tonight. My guest, Dave Spinks, thank you so much for being on. It's been great visiting with you again. And next week, tune in for, I have guests, but I only know their YouTube name is Colorado Martini, and my phone died, so I can't tell you their names. But the wife's name is Denise, so I can remember that. So they're going to be on next week, and it's going to be really interesting to hear what they got to say. But you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.